You know that moment when you're talking to a woman who seems amazing, but her interest just isn't there. You try being kind, you try giving attention, yet the more effort you show, the more distance you feel growing, and what most men don't realize is that you're probably not doing the wrong things, you're just doing the right things in the wrong sequence, because attraction doesn't grow the way logic works. It's emotional, not logical, and research in evolutionary psychology shows that attraction often comes from mental shortcuts. The brain responds to automatically. So let me share 7 psychological triggers that actually create desire, starting with masculine presence, not muscles or looks but energy, the way you enter a room, whether you take up space or quietly shrink. Because a man who moves calmly and doesn't search faces for approval sends a powerful message without speaking. The second trigger is emotional challenge. Most men agree with everything a woman says, fearing tension, but tension isn't conflict, it's attraction fuel. So lightly disagreeing or teasing playfully creates polarity, and polarity creates magnetism. The third is selective attention. Many men lose control by giving too much attention too soon, instant replies, constant availability, but the female brain reads this as low value, while a man with a full life, hobbies, goals and direction makes his time valuable and makes her curious. The fourth is intentional listening, not just hearing words but remembering meaning, recalling details she mentioned casually and bringing them up later, which creates emotional bonding faster than compliments ever could. The fifth is calibrated vulnerability. Many men think they must appear unbreakable, but women don't connect with perfection, they connect with honesty delivered confidently. Sharing something real without playing the victim builds trust, and trust opens the door to desire. The sixth is gradual physical touch. Light, respectful touch releases oxytocin, a brief touch on the arm during laughter, gentle shoulder brush while walking, creating positive physical association, and finally the most powerful trigger, controlled unpredictability. The brain loves dopamine, and dopamine comes from rewarding uncertainty, so being slightly unpredictable, sometimes warm, sometimes challenging, sometimes you initiate, sometimes you wait, maintains mystery, and mystery keeps her thinking about you even when you're not there. These aren't tricks. They're real tools to be used with respect and intention, and when you understand them, you stop chasing and naturally become the kind of man women want to win over. And now you have these real tools, not tricks, but principles rooted in how attraction actually works. So the choice is yours. You can keep doing what you've always done, hoping that logic and effort will eventually win her over. Or you can start applying these triggers with intention, understanding that desire isn't something you convince a woman to feel. It's something you create the space for her to discover naturally. When you stop chasing and start embodying presence, challenge, selective attention, intentional listening, calibrated vulnerability, gradual touch, and controlled unpredictability, you shift from being just another guy trying to prove himself to becoming someone she finds herself drawn to without quite understanding why. And that shift changes everything, not just in dating, but in how you move through the world, because when you genuinely know your own value and communicate it without saying a word, you stop asking how to make someone want you and start being the kind of man she realizes she doesn't want to lose. Now, if you're paying close attention, you might be thinking, Lauren, this sounds great in theory, but how do I actually put all of this together without overthinking every move? And that's a fair question, because the moment you start trying to mechanically apply these triggers, you lose the very thing that makes them work: authenticity. These aren't boxes to check off. They're shifts in your mindset, your energy, and how you show up. The real secret is that when you internalize these principles, you stop focusing on what she's thinking and start focusing on how you're expressing yourself. And ironically, that's when she starts thinking about you. Let me walk you through a real scenario so you can see how all 7 triggers weave together naturally. Imagine you're at a casual gathering. Instead of scanning the room nervously, you walk in with masculine presence, shoulders back, relaxed, not looking for validation. You spot someone you find interesting, but you don't rush over. You let her notice you first, even if just for a moment. When you do approach, it's not with eager energy, it's with calm intentionality. You say something light, maybe a playful observation about the environment. That's emotional challenge and selective attention combined. You're present but not desperate, engaging but not over-invested. She says something about her weekend plans, and instead of immediately asking to join, you listen, really listen. Later in the conversation, you reference a small detail she mentioned earlier, something she didn't expect you to remember. That's intentional listening, and it lands differently because it comes from a man who hasn't been chasing her all night. You share a quick story about a time you failed at something, but laugh about it, calibrated vulnerability. You're not hiding your flaws, you're showing you're comfortable in your own skin. As the conversation flows, there's a moment of laughter, and you place your hand lightly on her forearm for just a second, then pull back. That's gradual touch, subtle, respectful, and it registers in her mind as warmth, not pressure. And throughout the evening, you don't overstay. You leave her wanting a little more. You're warm, then you're engaged elsewhere. That's controlled unpredictability. You haven't played games, you've simply shown you have a life, and her interest becomes something she feels, not something she's pressured to give. Now here's the part most men miss entirely. All of this only works if you truly believe you're someone worth wanting. If deep down you feel like you're not enough, no technique in the world will hide that. Women are biologically wired to sense insecurity, not because they're judging you, but because their safety and emotional well-being depend on being with someone who is stable and sure. So the real work, the work nobody wants to talk about, is building yourself to the point where you don't need a woman's approval to feel complete. When you reach that place, you stop being the man who asks, "How do I make her desire me?" and you become the man she desires without being asked. That's the shift. Think about it. You've probably met men who aren't the most handsome or the wealthiest, yet women are drawn to them. That's not luck. That's presence. That's emotional strength wrapped in warmth. That's a man who understands that desire isn't about convincing, it's about being. And that's exactly what I want for you. Not to manipulate, not to pretend to be someone you're not, but to strip away the habits that have been holding you back and step into the version of yourself that already commands attention without asking for it. If you've made it this far, you're clearly someone who's willing to learn, and that alone puts you ahead of most men who spend their whole lives guessing. Now it's about application. Start small. Pick one trigger, just one, and practice it this week. Maybe it's walking into a room with grounded energy. Maybe it's teasing lightly, instead of agreeing automatically. Notice what shifts. You'll be surprised how quickly women respond when you're no longer trying to earn their interest, but simply expressing who you are. And if you want to go deeper, there's more real-world exercises, specific phrasing, how to handle the moments when she tests you, how to escalate without rushing, and I go into all of that in the full guide. But for now, take these 7 triggers and start using them, not to get a specific outcome, but to become the kind of man who naturally creates attraction wherever he goes. That's the real goal. That's what changes everything.